Hello and welcome to part 9 of the Johnny Blender 2.0 series. This is David Ward. And when last time I left you, we had just finished up the inside of the mouth. We go ahead and tab into edit mode. We can see all the work we did. And one of my YouTube viewers pointed out that I put the canine tooth in the wrong location. So let's see if I can't remedy that real quick. Let's select the mouth area here and just go ahead and hide that, and we'll go ahead and select one of these faces here on those canine teeth or incisors and hit the period key on our numpad, and it'll zoom in on that so we can rotate around it also. So let's just go ahead and straighten those out. Let's make sure we're scaling around the median point. So let's grab our... Sometimes if you're at a strange angle and you try to, what I was trying to do just then was try to scale along the x-axis here by hitting S and then X. However, that works, but it's scaling along the global x-axis, which is, you know, the whole scene, rather than the local one that I want to do. So the way I fix that is I go to right here where it says global and I change that to normal, and it sets the crosshair things up, the little manipulator module thing there. But still, if I hit S and X, it still wants to go along the global axis. So what I have to do is I have to grab the scale manipulator mode there instead of the translate manipulator. So just grab that and just grab that red one and just drag it sideways, and it's going to scale it along that axis. I actually want to do this face instead, so we'll go ahead and do that there. And let's go ahead and make it a little thicker as well. And then let's grab all of these guys here around the bottom, and let's go ahead and drag them up so they're a little, and make sure we got the proportional editing turned on. And let's go to connected. And what connected is it's only going to affect these the vertices and faces that are connected to what I have selected here. If it was just turned on by itself, it's going to modify, see the teeth on the bottom too. But if it's set to just the connected, it's only going to affect that tooth, and then the further it goes up, it'll select the teeth beside it as well. But we don't need to go that far, so just about right there. And then the third tooth from the middle. Actually, that was not the canine, was it? It was this one. So let's do the same thing there. Just kind of move it up. Scale it down some, and then this tooth, the third tooth from the side. Need to pay more attention in my biology class, I guess. And let's sharpen that guy up a little bit. I'll do the same thing on the bottom teeth. There we go, and then sharpen this one up just a little bit. Okay. Okay, so now pop back out of edit mode, and now we are ready to do what's called unwrapping our UV coordinates. And what UV coordinates are, they're kind of like when you look at a globe versus a flat map on the wall, like of the Earth. The map is like a flattened view of the globe. So if you wrapped the map around the globe, it would deform around the sphere of the globe properly. But then you can also put the map on a flat surface. So that's similar to what UV coordinates are, UV mapping. So we're going to take those seams that we added earlier. So we tab into edit mode, and right now we only have our mouth thing selected there. So let's Alt H, and that's going to unhide everything else, and then we hit A to deselect it here. You can see these orange lines. I guess maybe they're red, I don't know. Hard to tell. Those are our seams. Remember, we added those earlier, and those are where basically we're going to cut our map, and it's going to pull out, basically make a mask, a flat mask. Not like a layer mask, that type of mask. I'm talking like a Halloween mask type of thing. And it's going to flatten it out on a surface, and then we can go into Photoshop or GIMP. I'll be using GIMP in this series, and we'll paint our textures on there. So So that's what UV coordinates are. Let's go ahead and split our window here. Remember, go to the diagonal lines here. Just click and drag. One thing I want to do before we go any further, I want to go ahead and save this as part 9. So I go File, Save As. And another quick little neat tip that some of my YouTube viewers have mentioned is if you hit the plus or minus key on your numpad, it'll change the number of your file there if you have it numbered like that. So that's kind of neat. But I'm using 09, so let me cancel out. I think as long as you don't go past 10, save as, and I just hit plus. Let's see, plus over here. Yeah, 09. So there we go. I don't have to type anything, just hit the plus thing. So there we go. Kind of a cool little tip. There's a lot of neat little tricks that this new version of Blender is getting. So, okay, so let's adjust these windows a little bit. Stretch this one out, and then over here I want to click on this little cube down here, and that right now we're in the 3D viewport. And that's what the little cube means. We click on that, and let's go up to the UV image editor. There we go, and you see it's just a flat grid. That's because we need to add a new. Basically, we're going to add a paper on which to paint our UV coordinates. So let's just go to New, and let's make it fairly big. I want to make it. Let's make it 2400 by 2400. There we go. And a UV test grid is a good way to test out and make sure everything's going to line up properly. So now we've got, we've got our paper we want to paint on. Now we need to tell it to unwrap these coordinates. So what we got to do now is tab back into edit mode, hit A to select everything on our model there, and we're going to go image. Let's see, that's not right. Where is it at? I guess I need to do this. Let's go to tab out of edit mode, and first we need to go into texture paint. There we go. And now when we go into edit mode, we need to load up that new paper, that new graphic that we made with the grid right there. And all you see over here is white, and that's because it's got our UV coordinates mapped out, but they're not arranged the way they need to be. And side note, by the way, UV coordinates is sometimes they're called UVW coordinates, and what those are, it's kind of like, it's just the axis in the 3D space. Normally you hear X, Y, Z, but for these textural coordinates they use UVW. So that's UVW, X, Y, Z, you know, the alphabet. So that's just what UVW means. It doesn't really stand for anything. That's just the axis, the 3D axis that it's using. So anyways, back on point here, we've got we went into texture paint mode, and we selected everything in the edit mode after going into texture paint, and now we have our UV coordinates over here that we need to unwrap, because right now they're just stacked all on top of each other. So the way we do that, we go to UVs and go unwrap, and it's going to automatically unwrap all of those. But it's got like a profile view for some reason. Let's examine this. Oh, I see here, because we still have our mirror modifier turned on. So what we need to do is we need to go ahead and apply that mirror. Actually, we need to come out of edit mode first. Tab out. There we go. And we need to go ahead and apply that mirror. And now when we tab into edit mode and we go UVs, unwrap, it did a lot better job. You can't hardly see it, but again, if you select one of the vertices and hit Control L, it'll select all of those. And now if we rotate it around, it'll let me here. For some reason it's kind of lagging. You can kind of see that it sort of looks like a Halloween mask. Here's the eyes and the mouth and the nose area. And we can arrange that. The way we could get it perfectly lined up, perfectly straight, is if we select this middle row on the top, just hold down Alt and then right click on there. And if you want to select the top and bottom at the same time, just hold down Shift, click on it again. And if you hit S to scale on the X-axis, 0%, and then go ahead and hit Enter. And now we're going to go UV's Pin. Okay? And now let's do the same thing on the back of the head, which is over here, this little section here. And we want to line this up perfectly straight as well. So go ahead and hold down Alt. Actually, just hit A to deselect everything, then hold down Alt and just right click in the center there. And since it's not separated by a mouth, it goes ahead and does the whole length. So SX0, and then also pin these UVs. And now if we go to UV unwrap again, it unwraps around those and straightens everything up. However, if we hit A to select everything, you can see a lot of this is overlapping now. Now we could sit there and fiddle with it and move it around if we wanted to, but a quick easy way to do that is to go UVs, pack islands, and it's going to separate everything out nicely so it fits a lot better into the defined space there that we have. However, you notice that, well, this is a good example here. If we tab out of edit mode here, we can see that all of our squares for our grid here that we're mapping from are not uniformly scaled. Like around the ear here, it's a lot smaller, and that means this area is going to have a lot more detail than this area, but that's not what we want. We want everything to be about the same. So what we have to do is go ahead and tab back into edit mode, select everything so we can see what we're doing here. Forgive me, I'm a little rusty on this, but I think if we go UVs, average island scale, that helps out. Now if we go pack islands, there we go. It gets everything evened out a lot better. So now if we tab back over here, let's go ahead and make this window a little smaller. Let's go ahead and tab back out of edit mode over here. And you can see it's still a little different there, but it's a lot closer. One problem that we have is here in the center of the face, we're stretching out some of those squares, and that's not good because that means it's going to stretch out our texture map when we get to it. So one way we can fix that, go ahead and tab back into edit mode, and let's go into zoom into our coordinates over here, and let's select this area around the nose and mouth that's getting stretched out. And if we turn on the proportional editing, is that going to be up here? Let's see. Select. Might have to do that over the end. No, there it is. Proportional editing. Go ahead and turn that on. Enable. And if we scale that up and increase our influence, we can kind of see it. We go to a textured view over here, and then select edge mode. We can kind of see it in action as we're scaling this side up. You can see those getting smaller, and the smaller they are, the better, because that means we can add a lot more detail around the face. And that's really where you want it, so you can have a lot of good wrinkles and things like that. So about like that'll probably work. We deselect everything and tab back out of edit mode. You can see that it's still stretching them out, but it's not as bad as before, and that'll probably be fine. I think that's acceptable. Around the rest of the head, we're not going to really have a lot of detail around the ears, so the fact that this is a little bit bigger is really not going to make a lot of difference. So that's how we unwrap our UV coordinates, and now I'm going to export them. I'm going to go image, pack, tab back into edit mode here, so we got our UV coordinates selected, and go UVs, export UV layout. And there we go. And one thing I've noticed is if you're using Photoshop, you want to go down here, you want to change the format to EPS, at least in Photoshop CS2. I know it's a little old, but that's the version that I have. It only wants to read the EPS file, so you need to go ahead and change this extension to EPS, like so, and then you go ahead and export it. But now if you're using GIMP, what you want to do is do the same thing, export UV layout, but you want to leave it at the SVG, the scalable vector graphic. You want to go ahead and leave it there, and we'll go ahead and save that. And so now we have these coordinates here that we can, that's set as a normal graphic file that we can take into Photoshop or GIMP and start painting our texture on there. So we will get to that in the next part. However, real quick, it's not going to take long as everything goes smoothly. I want to go ahead and save real quick just in case. What I want to do now is I want to apply all that detail that we sculpted to our lower resolution mesh here. Remember, let's tab out. Let's go ahead and join these two windows back together. Just click there and drag it over. And let's just go ahead and turn this back to solid view so it's a little smoother. The texture view tends to eat up more RAM on your computer, and it runs a little slower. So if you go back to solid view, it runs a little faster. So remember, in the first layer right here, we have our high detail. If we turn this on to viewport, and if we go into sculpt view, sculpt mode, you can see all that detail that we sculpted. However, if we tab into, actually tabbing is not what I want to do. So if we Z into wireframe view, you can see all of that high resolution mesh model there. That's all that detail, and it's way too much to try to animate or anything like that, especially if you don't have a high-end computer. So a way around that, let's go ahead and Z back out to solid view, and just to show you the difference between the two, let's go back to just this layer and Z into wireframe view. There, you can tell a huge difference. This is a lot fewer polygons than the other, so your computer will like this one a lot better than the other one as far as rendering it goes. It'll be a lot faster. So I know what you're saying. How do I get all that detail onto this lower resolution model? Well, that's where the magic of normal maps come in. Those are basically bump maps. They kind of give the illusion of detail, of extra depth and extra geometry on your model by manipulating the shadows and the highlights that your texture map will be throwing off. So that it doesn't, like, for example, if we would have put a scar across his eye or something like that, it would look exactly like there was one there, but there would not actually be any deformations on the mesh itself. So all that to explain. Let's go ahead and put it in action there. Let's go ahead and split this back up. Probably should have just left it as it was. Go ahead and put that back to UV image editor. And since we have the UV coordinates mapped out already, we don't need to do anything else there. Let's go ahead and turn on both layers. So we have our high resolution mesh and our low resolution mesh right there in the same window. See, that's the high resolution. Let's go ahead and turn that back to object mode. So low resolution, high resolution. Okay, and I need to get all that detail applied to the low resolution. So what we need to do is what's called a tangent normal map. And the tangent means it's going to our render settings, way down to the bake menu, by the way. And what tangent is, it's going to judge the distance between the low resolution mesh and the high resolution mesh. It's going to judge all the distance between each surface there on both planes. It's going to map that out over in our UV coordinates here, and we'll be able to apply that as a map. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. Let's change our bake settings over here. We want the bake mode needs to be set to normals, and the normal space, stretch that a little bit so you can read it, needs to be set to tangent as it is. And we need to check the selected to active box. And I always like to bump the margin up a little bit, usually up to 5 works a little better. So now we're ready to bake. We just need to make sure we select our models in the proper order. Now, sometimes I forget which ones to select first. I think you select the high resolution to the low resolution, but don't quote me on that until we see the results. So just select your low resolution first. Is that right? And then hold down Shift and select the high resolution. And now we'll go ahead and save it just in case, because Blender likes to crash on these types of things. It eats up a lot of memory, especially with those high resolution meshes. So go ahead and hit bake. And while that's baking, I'll go ahead and explain. Our highly detailed sculpted mesh is right now, it's just in preview mode, and it doesn't have, okay, See up here it says no images found to bake to. Well, I used to run into this problem all the time. I didn't know how to fix it, and that's because I had these selected in the wrong order. I selected the low resolution first and then the high resolution second, but it actually needs to be the opposite order. So I selected high resolution first and then shift select the low resolution, and now we'll hit bake, and it'll run the little bake thing up here. Take a little while. Excuse me. And then it'll start showing up over here. But as I was saying, we have the preview mode of our highly detailed mesh here, but that's just for our viewport. Now when it's baking, it's going to actually do the highest level of the subdivisions for that. And like I said, the more subdivisions you have, the longer this is going to take. So I'll tell you what, I'll save you some time, and I'm going to go ahead and pause the recorder here, and as it actually starts showing up over here, I'll go ahead and hit record again so you can see it in the action, but I won't make you wait the whole time. Okay, so it started baking over here. Let's go ahead and... Oh no, it crashed. Well, let me pause the recorder again and I'll get this going. So hold on just a second. Okay, so I brought this back up after Blender crashed, and remember we saved it there at the last minute, thankfully. So let's go ahead and try this again. Let's go ahead and load up that map over here so we can zoom out and see the whole thing as it's rendering. So now we remember, I already forgot what I did. I think it was high resolution first and then low res. So hold on, grab that one, hold on shift, and then select that one, and then bake. So we'll let it sit here a couple minutes. Let me go ahead and hit pause again, just so you don't have to wait again. So hold on. Okay, there it goes. And after it finally does all the calculations, it's actually doesn't take that long. So let's go ahead and click back in here. Let's go ahead and zoom in here, and we can zoom in real far, and you can see all that extra detail that we added, all that graininess to the skin texture and the wrinkles and everything. And you see some weirdness around the mouth here, and then definitely some around the teeth and everything, because the high resolution model doesn't have teeth in there to bake to, so it just kind of made a wild guess, and we'll have to clean that up later on when we get into texturing, which will probably be in part 10. So let's go ahead and save this image. We'll go ahead and save as, and we'll name it JB for Johnny Blender tangent underscore normal map. And we'll go ahead and hit save as. And it'll save. Might take it a little while. Not responding. Don't have crashed. Okay. Okay. So that's how you bake a tangent normal map. And in part 10, I'll show you how to apply it to your model. So I think this particular section might have drawn on a little longer, so apologize for that. But I will catch you in part 10. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you then.